Subscribe now.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Bigfoot Influencers podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing? Super
Cool.
excited to be here. We're doing our little intro for our guest today, but I'm actually not going to be interviewing. This is the interview was pre-recorded by Tim because I wasn't feeling well. So we're just going to have like our little intro though.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So a couple weeks ago, I was chatting with Andy McGrath, and I recorded this knowing that we might need to do do this in the future just to prepare. So it's a really cool interview. Andy McGrath is a cryptozoology researcher. He's probably been doing it for 20 or 25 years. He's an author of a book. He's been on television. He has his own podcast. He's done radio. He's in the UK. So he recently released volume 1 of his series of books. He's gonna have, it's really cool. There's gonna be 7 books, in total, and they're all gonna be covering different types of cryptozoology phenomenon, I guess.
Right, but he's focusing more on like the bipedal in this one book. So bipedal animals.
Yeah, hairy hominids.
Hairy hominids.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, it's called Beasts of the World. So we're just excited. Again, it's pre-recorded, but Dana I thought we would do an intro.
Yay.
And tell everyone Happy New Year.
Yeah, just in case you missed me, because I don't want you to be sad that I'm not on this one, but I was sick for it.
Yeah, so we thank each and every one of you guys, and look forward to giving you another, hopefully an informative
of course it's
podcast.
going to be informative.
Everyone loves it. Yeah.
Yep. And here's to 2023.
So thank you guys. Enjoy the episode. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're at. I'm thrilled to be here with Andy McGrath. He's an author. He's been involved in cryptozoology for 20 plus years, and just a fascinating person. So I thought we'd give you guys a little bonus episode and have Andy on and talk about what he's doing. So how you doing, Andy?
I'm good, Tim. Very, very perky and happy today.
So where
it's good to be talking Bigfoot.
Yeah, where are you talking to me from, for folks that don't know you?
Well, I'm in Surrey, just outside of London. I'm literally 100 yards away from London, staring at the border in the leafy suburb of Surrey.
We had friends over here. So we have over here we have Thanksgiving holiday, and we had my wife Dana's friends. They're from Bournemouth.
Nice
so
seaside town. Yeah, lovely seaside town. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were just here, and I think she's going to go back. She's been here for a little while, but I think she's on her way back there. So.
Which part of the country are you in, Tim?
So I'm on the East Coast. I'm on the East Coast of the United States. I live in southern Delaware. Pretty central location though. We're near the water, but I'm an hour and a half from Philadelphia, 2 hours from Baltimore, and 2 hours from Washington D.C. So I can get around. I can get in New York pretty fast. So
yes, sort of in the center of everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, where we are, I can go 10 miles. I'm in farmland, but I'm still, like I said, I'm still close enough. I can drive up to Philadelphia or Baltimore or Washington D.C. within a couple hours and get into the city, the chaos.
This is exactly how I feel when I'm going into London on my daily commute. And I just see the throngs of people on the platform, on the train platform. Like, okay, city of Satan, here we come.
I know, it's crazy, and it's what we do, and for our careers, and people spend so much time in either public transportation or in their own vehicle that if you tally it all up, it's crazy. At least they have podcasts like this that they can listen to though while they're traveling, right?
That was exactly what I was going to say to them. If you've got the Bigfoot Influencers podcast, then hey, you can just switch off and ignore that armpit that's in your face on the metro.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, Andy, you've authored. How many books have you authored?
Well, it's two officially, but
Uh-huh.
the first one I authored. This is the third version of it that we have now with the Hangar One Publishing, and the first two. I rewrote the first one for the second time, so it was quite different to the first one. There were lots of different parts, and the third one, I took about 160 pages, 130 pages out, and added over 160 pages to the third one because I just wanted to be more rounded, essentially. Because you said to me earlier when we were having our chat that this is the first, you never wrote a book before, and I never written a book before the first version of Beast of Britain, and every year and a half I'd come back to it and go, oh my god, this is terrible, and then rewrite it. And this time I think is the definitive version. I'm sure there's still plenty of typos, but I think this is
yes,
yeah, and strange grammar, and somebody complained to me I was pissing all over the English grammar, and I was just like, well, if you understand the sense, then my job is done. I make up words all the time that sound sort of academic, but I've included them because they sort of almost rhyme with the previous word in the what is that in the sort of alliteration. There's a lot of alliteration, which I know is like publishers hate that, and,
right.
Writers hate that, but I love alliteration. So there's a lot of very subtle sleight of hand alliteration all the way through the book. Some of the words that I made up is because I've had to slightly, change them to fit the sound of the previous word.
Interesting.
And normally I'll put it in italics so they know it's a bullshit made up word, but the rule is it still has to make sense. You have to know what I'm trying to say, and I'll keep it.
Yeah, with my book, even though a part of it I didn't write, obviously, because I interviewed the individuals in the book, so it was their words. But I did write intros to each paragraph. I did have some other my own portions in the book, but there's still a lot of work, a lot of editing, because I've got to transcribe our audio interviews, and you always miss something. Like you said, I've got typos. I found one recently, after a gazillion edits in my book. So can you share the titles of your books for the audience so they know what they are?
Sure. So the first book is Beasts of Britain. That was the first book that I wrote, and it's about all the different types of cryptids that we may have here in the United Kingdom. That's England, Scotland, Wales, and I also include a few from Ireland as well, even though most of the island of Ireland is in the UK. And the second one is Beasts of the World, Volume 1, subtitle Hairy Humanoids. So Volume 1 is about hairy humanoids around the world, in which we essentially investigate the different types of hairy man-like creatures that might inhabit the world, or we investigate the possibility that there might be different types, essentially. So you have things like the Bigfoot of North America would be a man-ape. So that's it's a massive, stocky, 7 to 9 feet tall, hairy creature with human-like footprints that have no arch, have that mid-foot flexibility, the mid-tarsal ridge. And you have the wild man type, which is more like the British Bigfoot, like the woodwose, as we would call it historically, has differentiated head hair often. It's more 5 to 7 feet tall. Looks what you would expect, I suppose, stereotypically a caveman or a Neanderthal to look like. Still hairy, but its feet are broad and arched, more like our feet. Then relic apes like the Yeti or the skunk ape, and other things besides. Little feet, the orang-pendek, the tail ma of the little Yeti of the Himalayas, or things like the Agogwe, and monkey monsters, gigantic 4 to 6 feet tall monkeys. And we even include things like dogmen in there, specifically under the premise that they might be a type of large bipedal monkey as well, just like those reported in Asia and South America over the years. And it goes on, but lots of other far out and how can I say tenuous examples of what could constitute a hairy humanoid.
So with the ones that may be attributed to, what we have here in North America, the Bigfoot. And you mentioned the footprints. Are there enough similarities in the footprints between the different hairy humanoids that they could be related to each other?
I mean, it definitely appeared to be. I mean, the giant man-ape types do tend to have that nice big flat, footprint that's lacking an arch. That seems to be the same, in Asia as in North America and other places where these things are found. I think there is a little crossover. There could be some dispute perhaps as to whether a Yowie is more a wildman type or a man-ape type. And there seems to be even variations within Australia of what constitutes their Bigfoot. There's a Doolittle type, which is a very huge man-ape kind of creature. And then there's the Yowie type, which seems to be more like a wild man, like an Almasty or Woodwose type of animal. And then they've got the Junjidi, which seems to be more like the Orion Pendic type. More like a little, I would say a little primate. Some people think more towards a little proto
Oh, really?
of some kind. Yeah, a proto pygmy, sorry, of some kind. But there are variations throughout. And those variations in Australia especially would change depending on the area and the tribe that reported them. Because of course they've got hundreds of tribes and hundreds of languages with variations on very similar myths, in the same way as they have in North America with things like the Pukwudgie and the Bookwis. Those names are clearly derived from the same language group in the first place. And that seems to be the same all over the world.
Wow.
These little variations seem to have a type that inhabits a niche in a certain area and has varying, mostly correlating physical features.
So, but I want to ask this question before I ask you more about the book. But this does relate to the book, based on what you've the reports you've taken, the information you've studied. I got a question about Australia and even islands. So obviously, when we have scientifically, there's an explanation of how apes could have gotten to America with the land bridge. Coming up through Asia and hence they would go through where the Himalayas was and then cross that land bridge into North America over. How would you explain something like that in Australia per se, or based on what you've studied?
I think there was also a land bridge, connecting Asia with Australia at one point, and it's actually not, as the crow flies, it's not too far. From places like Papua New Guinea and the Northern Islands, which are also were connected to Asia at some point. It's the same here in Britain, by the way. In Britain, at one point, we had, up to 6,000 years ago, the Doggerland Bridge, which is on the East Wash, which connected us with Europe. It's only about 150 feet deep, and over the past few years, they've been trawling up mammoth bones and tools and all kinds of evidence of animals and human activity. And they even have a name for them. They call them the Doggerland people that would have inhabited this now submerged area between Britain and Europe. And there's something funny about that, actually, with the big animals. I always ask people, okay, so you don't think that, a Bigfoot could have got to Britain, or a wildman type could have got to Britain, because there's similar stories in Europe as well. And yet, we had bears and wolves and all these other creatures. How did they get here?
Right.
And nobody seems to care about that. That's fine. We knew they were here. That we even had mammoths and woolly rhinos, all the rest of it. At one point in the very distant past, but bears and wolves were more recent. And they're large predators. How did they get to this land? They didn't swim, that's for certain. They got here somehow, and I think that's the key. Essentially, at one point, most of these lands were at varying points in the history connected to one another.
Well, no, that makes a ton of sense. I did, thank you for that explanation. So talking about the book, can you share with the audience, how the book's laid out and how you came up with the idea to write it?
For the Beast of the World series, the
Yes.
way I wrote it is I wanted them to be able to dip into any part of the book and just pick out one type of creature and read about it and find out all of the main facts. So every single section of the book has an intro to the type. Is it the wildman type or the Doberman type? It gives you some specific details about them. And then there's an overview of the area which one of these types is found, followed by an etymological background of their name. So it's called What's in the Name. So we'll give you what the name means in different language groups around that area, what its meaning is, how it came about, how it's been dispersed around the region. Then we look at monstrous measurements. So we give you the main physical description of the creature. That is followed by their tracks. They have tracks, and the terrifying tracks, their beastly behaviors, the deadly diet, the hairy habitats, scary sightings.
Wow.
You see the alliteration coming out here, right? And then that goes on to beastly evidence, any sort of forms of evidence that we have. Finally, beastly theories. What are the common theories about this particular creature in the area where they come from? What do people think it is? What have other researchers or communities put forward for this? So, for instance, when we look at the Almasty, one of the beastly theories is about the waning wildman, which some of the researchers like Maurice Kaufman and others who were in that area looking for the Almasty, Dmitry Bayanov, had theorized that they were present at the end of a unique and ethno-known species in the area, who now it was once regularly reported by the local people, but now they only have intermittent reports. And some people thought, could the geographic dominance of this animal in the Caucasus and that whole area in Europe and Russia, and Asia, could it have been driven out by all of the wars, the First and Second World War, and all of the tumultuous events that have happened in that area over the years, to the point where now you only hear about an Almasty, here and there. Whereas in the old days, all of the locals, people like Kaufman and Bayanov and Igor, what's his name, Burtsev, interviewed, they had hundreds of stories,
Right.
One-to-one, face-to-face stories of interacting, living alongside these creatures almost, in a very, I wouldn't say symbiotic, but mutually exclusive way.
Right. I think you even hear some of those stories in North America with the Sasquatch and Bigfoot, where the Native American or First Nation individuals have lived in, like you said, maybe lived in, I don't know about harmony, but they lived amongst them, and they have had interaction with them. The Almasty is always fascinating to me too, because that's just, I mean, there's not enough books written about that, so that's just a fascinating one.
I mean, it just seems like there was so much there in that area to investigate. There's another guy, famous researcher who was killed in the area, Geordie McGrath. I don't know if you remember him at all. He wrote about the Bar Manor, which lives around the Chitral mountain range in, I think it's I'll just find out the area exactly. I think it's just at the very start of the Himalayas, and it's around the Pakistan, Afghanistan region, that whole tumultuous, dangerous region there in West Pakistan and Afghanistan. And there's so many different tribes of people there, actually, very, very different to one another, but have also lived alongside each other for a long time as well, which I think is a very important fact. And they talk about a very similar creature. Creatures that interact with people in a similar way, that lived up on the mountain ranges, that were seen. He sketched many eyewitness descriptions. It was just so, how can I say, the articulation and the detail of these creatures that were described to him firsthand by a lot of the locals and the natives, and the experiences they had with them are amazing. And even the locals were fascinated and amazed by them. They saw them rarely, but they saw them enough for them to be, a known animal living in the region. Yeah. And that was just in 2002, I think he was killed. So this is a recent thing. you know. And one would think if we could get into the area, that they would still be present in some degree. You know, I would hope so.
Wow.
Anyway.
What do you think? Did you study the rock apes in Vietnam?
I did. There was such a big choice of ones I didn't going to Vietnam. I don't know why I didn't. Because I chose the Yeren instead. That's why.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but there was only so many in each section that I could add. I've heard the stories of them. I don't know if they constitute a wild man type or a man ape type. So they're definitely on the smaller side, aren't they? You know, I mean, on the wild man sort of side. Here we go. So Geordie McGrath, the Chitral district of Pakistan in the Hindu Kush mountains. So
Oh,
you know,
wow,
this is inhabited by the Kalash people and the Nuristani people, and it's just a huge, vast mountainous area, but that has quite a significant rural population in it. Yes, it's really amazing, really amazing. I'd love to get there. I wouldn't like to get killed.
Right, definitely.
As he did. I think there was some weird things about his life, and I didn't go into too far, but the villagers, you know, they got fed up with him, and I think they dispatched him. But yeah, amazing research.
Yeah, that's definitely. I've heard a few stories about that, so which is scary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So definitely. So with the Beasts of the World, is it going to be a multiple volume series?
It is a multiple volume series. So we've got number 1. I'm currently working on number 2, and volume 2 is water monsters, and it's not just Nessie or the odd sea serpent. It's every water-bound beastie that has ever been reported in the past. Every type of beastie that's been reported all around the world, from mega turtles to strange squids and octopus to super otters. Everything is in there, and it's I think it'll be a bit longer than through.
Okay.
Hero Humanoids is about 375 pages. So it's looking a bit longer at the moment.
Wow.
I hope it's not going to be that long, because I don't like reading books that are too long. So I wanted to be in a format that you guys will like and pick up and read. But yeah, maybe 400 plus pages. Let's see.
And that.
Bless you, Tim. You got to.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
So then what's next?
Well, as well as that happening, myself and Doug, we're still pitching our series, our international cryptozoological series, which is based upon the books and the locations, where we'll accompany researchers out into the field to find about their creature, the one that they devoted their life to finding, and find out what it is that they find so compelling about it, and hopefully along the way, employing lots of tech and science and old world storytelling, we'll discover something worth bringing back to the world. It's essentially, I was joking, it's a cryptid travel show. It's like a travel series, but based on cryptids. And there's so many, even with these books. Volume 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got them all laid out. That's how I normally do it, because I was going to write this book as one book in the first place. Right. All of the chapters are there, ready to be written in every book. Just working through each one now in sequence. And I just think, yes, I love Bigfoot. Yes, I love Nessie, but that's just the tip of the cryptozoological iceberg. There are so many different types of strange things reported, right from giant spiders to possible living dinosaurs to mammoths or saber-tooths, and there are legitimate, let's say, compelling reports around the world of possible creatures still living. And the mistake that we make, we get Google Maps out, we zoom in on an area, right, and the next thing you know, we think we know what's in it. And we don't. We barely know what's in our own backyard half the time. And I think that's a great motivator. So I'm hoping if we can get it sold this year, to start filming next year, and just literally get out there, whether it's with headhunters in Papua New Guinea, looking
Right.
for the rope in, hopefully not getting eaten again. I won't watch that trip. And wherever it's going to be, just out there in the snows and the deserts and the sands and the seas, trying to find something, some sort of intriguing evidence for the audience, and having a great time while doing it.
That's fascinating. So you'll be working on the second book, and you'll hopefully be working on a TV series at the same time.
I hope so. Yes.
So you mentioned 7 volumes. So is each volume going to focus on a category of,
Yes.
of cryptid? Okay. So can you give us an example of what it could be?
These are working titles, by the way, so they're not.
Okay.
They're not the
I won't
final
hold you to them.
titles. So What Are Monsters is the one I'm working on now. After What Are Monsters, there's 3 is Things with Wings.
Okay.
Number 4 is Monstrous Megafauna. Yes. Reclusive Reptiles comes after that. And then we have Canids, Felids, and Rodentia. So weird canines, felines, and rodents. Again, working title. And finally finishing off with volume 7, which might be a 7 and 8. I'm not sure yet. Depends how much there is. Beastly Bugs and Amazing Amphibians. And I hope that's my least favorite one. Well, I like amphibians, but not the bugs. So
I
if
never
the TV series does kick off,
right.
I hope we don't get to the bug bit too soon.
Right. I would have never thought of how many categories there are, but there are tons of them. Where do worms fall into that?
Oh, I think you could easily stick them in the.
Because isn't there the Mongolian something?
Yeah, I would stick it in the bugs. I mean, bugs aren't specifically insects, are they? It's
Right.
it's like a term we use, or arachnids even for that sort of the creepy crawly world. I think I would try to fit them in there. Although many people do believe that the Mongolian deathworm might be a reptile of some kind. So
right.
There are a lot of crossovers like that in all of the books. With a lot of things that are difficult to fit into one category or another. Is the super otter? Is it an mammal or is it a sea serpent?
Right.
And or is it an eel or is it some sort of giant eel? So there's difficulty matching those characters. And when you come to things with wings, you've got humanoids with wings, like the Mothman, or we've got one here, Batman of Society Hill Cemetery, which is essentially just a humanoid creature that can fly. And that seems to be falling into the realm of the paranormal somehow. Although I do try to keep it out of that realm if I can, as much as possible. I don't want to give them anything, Tim. Take all their shit and keep it
right.
Like Black Shark, the Black Dogs, Dogman. I don't want them to have it until I've exhausted the possibility that it's a flesh and blood creature.
Right.
Then I'm willing to concede, let it go. If it is, it is. But I don't know how I can investigate that, because if it is a supernatural creature, how am I going to prove it?
I know. How do you get? I mean, where do you get all your information from? I mean, it just sounds like such a big task, an enormous task of what you're doing.
I've got tons and tons of books. It is largely source material, because with that level of differentiation, there's nothing else I could really do. I can't interview all these people. A lot of it, I do some of them, of course, but a lot of it's historical as well.
Right.
So there's that aspect. I've got a lot of books. You'll notice at the end of the first book, there's just a giant list of source material. Some books are much better for etymology, for example, which is very difficult to find all of that information yourself. And with the sightings especially, I try to source them from unless there's no other source, from various sources, and at least reframe it. You don't want to just repeat what somebody has said, at least not the theories. But sightings need to be delivered verbatim in the witness's own words, don't they? Yeah. So I just have tons and tons and tons and tons of books and PDFs and old scratchy newspapers, and I look through them, and I hate that copying by hand bit. It'd be so nice if you could just you find things digitally most of the time, but a lot of it's just reading through dusty books.
I know it's fun though. It's definitely fun. So when do you when in your goal, when do you expect to have book number 2 done? Well, not book number 2, but in the series, obviously.
Yeah, I've had to take a break in the summer. It was kind of busy. I'm coming back onto it on the 1st of December, and I plan to finish writing it by the end of Jan, or have it ready for publication by beginning of Feb. The 2 months to finish up. I'm kind of halfway through. It shouldn't be too hard.
Is there anything you changed from volume 1 and you said, you know what, I want to do this in volume 2 differently? Is there anything that came up like that?
I often stray away from including photos that are purported to be evidence of something. I like to show the area. I like to show some aspect of what we're looking for. But I'm often, one, because it's very hard to get permission a lot of the time. That's one of the reasons. That can be difficult. But two, I often think if there's like a very direct descriptive photo, it provokes more questions than it answers in a way.
That makes sense.
Because it's a moment in time in a way. And how do we determine how that moment in time was constructed? So maybe I would include a few more photos in this one. People did complain a little bit, say, hey, I would like to see a few more Bigfoot photos here and there, or photos of sketches even, or what people are purporting to see. So perhaps we'll do something like that.
Right. What's and last question before we get into how people and folks can purchase the book? What's the most fascinating thing that you put in the first book, or something that you just scratched your head on and said, wow, I can't believe this account, whether it's an article or an interview, is there one that stands out?
For me, actually, there's a creature called the Kradan in the Himalayas. It's in the chapter on monkey monsters, basically. So monkey monsters are, and this is, I've got this description of that. Really was taken with Lauren Coleman and Patrick Heeg's description of this, that dogmen could be monkey monsters, for example, but there are other monkey monster reports around the world. So monkey monsters are often upright primates. They're monkeys, praetorines and catarines that are large, 4 to 5 to 6 feet tall, and very aggressive, and possibly existing around the world. And that would include things like the salvaje. In South America, it would include other things like I think the Nandi bear could be one of these creatures as well, or these Nachi also in South America. But my favorite one is the devil monkey, for example. And devil monkey is where it's British Columbia. No, it's Kentucky, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So my favorite is the Kradan, and the reason it's my favorite is because of the encounter that was experienced with this creature. So it's in the Gosankunda Pass, which is just directly north of Kathmandu. It's a popular trekking route for tourists because it's very close to the Gosankunda Lake. There's a big Hindu and Buddhist story as well. It's like a sacred lake, this place. So this creature, it's 5 foot tall. It's got a black face, yellow eyes, long yellow fangs, well built but sinewy, so thin, grey haired, got a long tail, long thin legs, leaves large tracks, 18 inches long, allegedly 8 inches wide, with a 4 foot stride. So it's a significant creature. So there's an entomologist in 1953 called George Brooks and a physician called George Moore, and they're traveling through Gosankunda Pass in the Palan route to Kathmandu, and it's raining and the weather's terrible, and they get waylaid, and their porters are behind them basically, and they get ambushed by 7 to 8 of these creatures in the pass. And the way it goes is that first of all they sort of hear this sort of howling and this aggressive noises, and this hideous face comes out of the leaves and starts gaping at them, and it has, like I said, these yellow eyes that's staring at them, and they call it demoniacal cunning and anger. And then the creature comes out, and they're basically saying it's half crouching, it's on two thin, hairy legs, it's got claws, or hands that are very dark, being draggled from the rain. And then all of the other creatures, 6 or 7 of them, start coming through the mist and surrounding them. One is even carrying a baby around its neck, so it's like a family group.
Right.
And they think, okay, we better fire our guns, and send these things away from us. They fire the guns, the creatures disperse, but then start to come back again, back into the attack. They think they're going to be ripped to pieces. And finally, one of their porters comes running up with the others, firing their guns as well, thinking their bosses were under attack, I suppose, by bandits or something like that. And the monkeys disperse, they go away. But one of the very significant things they said about it was that they could see a tail flicking behind it. So this isn't a yeti. It's a big, long tail flicking around. It's not an ape.
Right.
It's not an ape at all. It's a type of monkey. And that, to me, is the most interesting aspect of this. Could there be these huge monkey-like creatures that are upright, almost upright, around the world? And were they once present in Europe? And what we now know as the dogman or werewolves and things like that, could we have looked at them and said, oh, that's like a dog-like face. This is a huge upright dog that's attacking me, instead of some strange, pointy-snouted beast of some kind. So that's the most interesting part to me. Could that be an answer to the mystery? I don't know.
That is fascinating. It's just there's a lot of mysteries on the world, and it's so fun that you're diving into them. It's just it's amazing. So I want you to share with the audience how people can follow you, how they can listen to you, how they can buy the book, anything you're up to. What can you tell us?
You can buy the book and Amazon and Barnes and Noble and wherever you get your books. Hanger One publishing website obviously has great deals of the books as well. But also you can buy not only the Kindle and the paperback, but there's an audiobook of both of my books, Beasts of Britain and Beasts of the World, Hairy Humanoids, wonderfully narrated by an English gentleman called Jonathan Rufus Welsh, who does just such a great job of, reading it, making it sound like I've got some semblance of intelligence. And, he's even, really nicely swooped over those bits of bad grammar and made up words. And I think the review I gave him was, I couldn't have said it better myself. So,
that's great.
And true. So you can get them there. If you go to facebook.com/Beasts of, you'll find me there, or you can go to Linktree/Beasts of, and you will find every single thing I've got there: my books, my merch, conferences. I've got a podcast called Beastly Theories, and there's loads of other bits and pieces as well. A YouTube channel, TikTok, all that other stuff. It's all there. If you want to report sightings, if you want to talk to me, or just have a chat, just get on Facebook and send me a message, and I'll be happy to chat.
Amazing, Andy. Thank you. And I recommend everyone listening to check Andy out. Hope you everyone enjoyed the bonus episode we're dropping here. And again, check Andy out. He's one of the Hanger One. We're brothers on the Hanger One Publishing format. So can't be more thrilled to have Andy here today with us. And Andy, thanks again. We look forward. Dana and I are going to have you on a full episode coming up soon, and we're going to dive into some fun stuff. So can't wait for that too.
That'd be great. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Take care. Talk to you soon,
Bye.
Andy.